Boy, prepare for a lot of messiness in this episode. So, let's just start off with what this game is. So, the game is technically called Kingdom Hearts Key. You'll see that there's an X in the title because there's no key on the keyboard. So, X is the closest thing to it. I got that out of the way. The first game is technically called Key. Kingdom Hearts Key. But that was a Japanese-only PC MMO type style game. In America and the rest of the world, we got it on a mobile device called Unchained Key. Now, there's a few differences here that are pretty minuscule. The story's basically the same. Instead of cards, which was Key, you have medals, which is Unchained Key. That's about it. As far as my understanding is, that's about it. And as well as the story-wise, you play your character. You create a character, you create an avatar, you join a union, and you play throughout the game. You play essentially the peon. Throughout the game, you don't understand much. And by the end of it, you won't understand much at all. But let's go over some key things about the storyline in Unchained Key before I get into some of the speculation and other things learned from back cover, trailers, and stuff. So, Key is technically ended, so the majority of this will be Key, but Unchained Key, I booted up my game, and I was up to mission 250. Yeah. And so, I got pretty far in the game, but I dropped it because it was costing me too much money, and I just couldn't get past the areas that I had. But I do understand the majority of the story. So, like I said before, you play your avatar. You're a new keyblader in none other than the world of the first Keyblade War. Yep, this is the origin of origins. That little story that Xehanort talked about in Birth by Sleep, it's happening now. You learn a little bit about the world. For one thing, the world is whole. This isn't like different world. Despite the fact that you go to like Aladdin's world and Beast's world and so on and so forth, you are ultimately in one world going to those places. But because they're so far away, what essentially happens is you go into a hologram of these worlds. Now, your main hub is known as a place called Daybreak Town. This is where all the Keybladers, as well as the leaders, are. And after every mission, you go back here to talk to your friends and discuss other things if you really wanted to. But the missions have you go to other places, and sometimes you do missions in Daybreak Town. But overall, Daybreak Town is essentially your main hub, and most of the worlds have no significance whatsoever. But you're accompanied by your little buddy known as a Kurthy. Every Keyblader has it in this world. And I'm going to spoil it right now. Kurthys are dream creatures. They're created by the head of it all, the Master of Masters. He created them to sort of keep an eye on the Keybladers of this world. But ultimately, you befriend someone from a different faction. At least, I think he's always in a different faction. He was in my game. And you become friends with him. His name is Euphrates? Something like that. From what I read, his name means to know the future. Or the quick future. Something that has something to do with the future. And he essentially goes, well, I used to hang out with Master Ava, but Master Ava just hasn't been herself lately. I'll get into Master Ava as well as the leaders in the speculation portion. Because you only really meet up with your master I believe. At least the master of your faction. But essentially, they go, okay, I always see her disappearing into this giant tower in the middle of town. Let's go there. You go there with Kurthy going, you shouldn't do that. Hey, you're doing it wrong here. But when you get to like the ladder where it leads up to the top of the tower, Euphrates goes, we'll do it tomorrow. We're too exhausted. And we don't know how tough it is up there. So let's just go home. We'll meet up tomorrow in the afternoon by the usual fountain. And so your character goes, okay. You go to bed, and Euphrates actually goes, I'm sorry, insert name, but I have to do this alone. And he goes up. You never see him again. That's right, you never see him again. And so you decide, well, maybe he went up there already, because you have nightmares of Euphrates going, help me, insert name. Essentially, you're my last hope from like Star Wars. And so you go, okay, let's go into that tower. You go up, and you meet up with your master. Or at least I met up with my master. And you fight them to death. You deal enough damage. You move on. And your master pretty much goes, I can't allow you to go in there. Just go home. And you go to bed, and you realize, well, Kurthy has a conversation with Dark Kurthy. Yep. You see, earlier in the game, you go to Olympus Coliseum, and Hades goes, I'll give you a deal. You inherit the power of darkness, you'll become much stronger. And Dark Kurthy is what happens when Keybladers' hearts go dark and essentially become dark Keybladers. At least that's from what I understand. And so, Kurthy's talking to the Dark Kurthy and going, oh, so your Keyblader went to the dark side, essentially. And he goes, yeah, but everything's great now. So, while Kurthy is a dream monster, Dark Kurthy is considered a nightmare. Like from Dream Drop Distance. And so, that's essentially where I ended my game of Unchained Key. From what I understand, the rest of the story in Key is essentially, you meet up with the 6th Keyblader, whose name is Luxio. And he brandishes Master Xehanort's Keyblade. And there's a lot of explaining that. That's going to be at like the end of the video. He attacks one of the masters. I can't remember if it's yours or just someone else. And then at the tail end of the game, you meet up. The war actually breaks out, and what's revealed is you've been collecting Lux this whole time to essentially save the world, but every time you essentially fuse cards or metals together, I don't remember the technical name for it, but they give it, it essentially, you create darkness. And so every Keyblader is doing that to get stronger, and it's causing more darkness than the light is being collected, and so darkness reigns over the world, with your character fighting the 5 foretellers for some reason. And every time you get beaten down, you see more hearts just disappear. And I would like to believe that Xehanort's right, where it's like the light Keybladers were fighting dark Keybladers, but really it's just a war, so it's one faction fighting another. No one faction is considered evil. I mean, there's one that wants to, where his belief is just ultimate power and he can save the world that way, but he's still collecting light. So they're all light Keybladers. So it's not really clear if there are dark Keybladers fighting here, or if it's just faction versus faction. But in the end, you end up dying. Well, dying. And Euphrates and another girl, which I don't remember when you meet up with, named Scald, who has something to do with the long future. They save you, I guess, and you sort of meet up with them at the tail end, like when you're dying, and you have one last moment of like friendship between the three of you, and the game ends there. Whether or not your character is a dandelion, I don't know. I'll get into that a little bit later when I'm explaining the foretellers, the factions, and all that. But there's a secret episode that pretty much shows your character and your Kurthy waking up in Enchanted Dominion with a huge, like, vine blocking Maleficent's... I can't remember if it's Maleficent's or Princess Aurora's castle. But you hear Maleficent say, Sora won't be able to get us here. Which is weird, but it's also revealed that you're in a dream. You're in the dream version of Enchanted Dominion. And Maleficent is hiding off in this dream world. This dream world version of Enchanted Dominion, and it's taking some point in Kingdom Hearts 1 or 2, because she specifically says Sora. Sora won't be able to reach us here. And so, I guess it's kind of confirmed that your character becomes a dandelion, but I can't imagine Nomura going, oh well, now we have to program all these other characters that played Key and Unchained Key, and now they're somewhere in the world. I don't see them doing that. I just don't see it happening, but the secret episode is just that. And that's where your story ends. Whether or not the Keyblade was forged there, or if there was light versus darkness, we don't know. What we ultimately do know is that at the end of this war, Kingdom Hearts, who's always up in the sky throughout all of Key and Unchained Key, sort of disappears, and because of that, Daybreak Town becomes the Keyblade Graveyard, with all the Keyblades stuck in the ground and all that. Essentially, the world gets smoked. It just gets, boom, exploded. And that's why you see so many dense and gigantic hurricanes in Birth by Sleep in the Keyblade Graveyard. It's because this world was essentially being protected by Kingdom Hearts, and without Kingdom Hearts there, it sort of went to shit. And that's why in Birth by Sleep, Kingdom Hearts also appears there opposed to anywhere else, because that was Daybreak Town, and that's the world where Kingdom Hearts sort of was visible. Well, I don't know if Kingdom Hearts appearing now in the new era, every world would be able to see Kingdom Hearts, or what would happen there. But in this world, Kingdom Hearts is only there because every world is in one gigantic world. And that's that. Now let's get into essentially the extra stuff and speculation from back cover trailers. So, I explained that there are 5 factions. Well, these 5 factions are essentially 5 Keyblade Masters, and I have to list them right on my phone. You have Inva's group, which is called the Angrias. You have Gula's, who's the Lepardos. You have Ira's, which is Unicornuses. You have Acids, who is Ursus. And you have Master Ava's, who's the Vulpes. Now, why are there 5 factions? is essentially... I explained earlier that the Master of Masters, the ultimate head of the world, the Master of Masters created Kurthi. Well, he or she, we don't know if it's... Like, it's to him, because we heard him talk, and it was a male's voice. Anyways, he ultimately trained these 5 characters and one other. He had 6 apprentices, but these 5 became foretellers and gave them their new name of Angrius, Lampardos, etc., etc., when they received a magical book known as the Book of Prophecies. Now, these 5, and I guess the 6th person, are the only people that are meant to read this. Because this is a powerful book that tells of the past, the present, and the future. And it can create and destroy worlds that it deems that, like, needs to be there or needs to be destroyed. So many people believe that, you know, it's already preordained about what's going to happen. And the book pretty much says that the light is going to fade and darkness reign, essentially. And so all 5 of them go, okay, we need to collect light, but each one has a different reason for collecting the light. And I'm not going to go into, because I don't remember, I don't have it up here, each one's intentions, but essentially I think it's Ursus. Ursus believes that it's either Ursus or Lepardos. I think it's Ursus. I'm sorry, I'm a little messy here because this is really untreaded waters. I've never completed the game. I don't know everything that there is. I'm just going on what I know and what I've read. But I believe Ursus wants to take all the power and essentially take all the light to become a messiah. And with enough power, he can stop the darkness. The only one I truly know is my master, Master Ava, who is Vulpes. Now, Master Ava wants to collect the light to create a project known as the Dandelions, because she already knows that the world is doomed. Because it's already written, preordained. The light is going to fade and darkness reigns. Again, I don't know if that's the exact wording, but her idea is essentially take specific keybladers, specifically from her faction. She's going to send them into the future, where she's not going to let the keybladers die here in a fruitless world. So she's going to send them, as well as I think she was going to send herself, to the future. And that's what the dandelions are. Like a dandelion, you know, you blow it and they go out to spread in other places. That's the idea. I think Unicornus wants to take the power as sort of a uniting the people type thing. Him and Ava essentially just want to unify the people because petty factions are not helping. And so that's about all I can remember about those characters. But from what I understand, the war is instigated because someone steals a page from the Book of Prophecies. What page it is, I don't know. For the longest time, I thought it was the end page, but from a trailer that I saw, I think it was the final trailer before 2.8, it's sort of like in the middle. And it's revealed to be a cloaked figure, which there are 2 that we've seen. That's the Master of Masters and the 6th apprentice, who I've said before is Luxio. Those 2 use the Organization 13 robe to walk around. I guess you could say they're the originals. And I don't know why they're exactly hidden. but I guess they'll be revealed in back cover. Maybe we'll see their faces or get a little more known for them. But now it's become a who's the traitor? Who's the one that ripped the page? Because they don't know. They didn't see Luxio or the Master of Masters rip the page. They just know a page is missing. A page was ripped out of the book. And who's the traitor? And so that's why I think the war is sort of a faction versus faction, as opposed to a dark Keyblader versus light Keyblader. It's more of, you're the traitor, but you're the traitor. No, you're the traitor. No, you're the traitor. It's a bunch of pointing fingers with Unicornus and Vulpus going, guys, calm down. And so that's about it about the 5 foretellers. So let's talk about Luxio and the Master of Masters. There's not much information about the Master of Masters, but he did give the jobs to each person, to each apprentice. Obviously, I've talked about the 5 foretellers, but Luxio has a very specific job that the Master of Masters gave him. What he's supposed to do, from what I understand, is he's supposed to observe how the Keybladers handle this situation. Well, how the 5 foretellers handle the situation. And then, when the world gets destroyed, he's supposed to go to the future. He's the only one planned that's supposed to go to the future. The Master of Masters doesn't say he is also going, and he also doesn't say that that the 5 foretellers are going as well. It's just stated that he's going to the future. So in the Master of Masters idea is Luxio is the only person that's going to the future to keep the Keybladers alive. Now, many people may argue otherwise. This is what we know. Just like there's a lot of mystery around the Book of Prophecies, there's a lot of mystery around the Master of Masters and Luxio. While Luxio, and now I'm getting into the theory portion, because that's about all that Luxio, all there is to know about Luxio. Now, I'm getting into the theory portion. Luxio does go to the future because in the Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer, we see young Xehanort and young Eraqus talking over a chess match, and young Master Xehanort says to young Master Eraqus, I know you know of the Lost Masters, which would be talking about the 5 foretellers. And when Xehanort looks up, there's Luxio's Keyblade. So we know that Luxio did go to the future, and he became, essentially, this era's Master of Masters. And that we know, from previous games, that he trained Yen Sid, Eraqus, and Xehanort. Those are the 3 that we know he trained. And now, I'm not going to go into my theories about how Luxio, died or anything, or how Master Xehanort got Luxio's Keyblade. It's long and rambled on. But, essentially, what I like to think happened was he sort of kept the idea of the old Master of Masters, where essentially giving each one of them a job. Now, what each one of their jobs was, we don't know. But we do know that, from Master Eraqus, that each, and Yen said, that each Keyblade Master gains certain knowledge. And that one Keyblade Master, one very special Keyblade Master, gets more knowledge than the others. So I like to think Master Eraqus was Luxio's special Keyblade Master that got a lot of information, especially the old masters, and probably the world he came from. I'm talking about Luxio. The world Luxio came from. And So we don't know anyone else being Dandelion except for one person where it's sort of revealed by some artwork or specifically a card in Key. And there might be a medal in Unchained Key by now. But it's sort of Kingdom Hearts 3 teaser card. It was for the 3-year anniversary of Key. And it shows, obviously, the new look for Sora, Riku, and Kairi. But it also shows Scold, Ephemera, that's his name, Ephemera, and Ventus, sitting together. So we can only assume that Ven is a Dandelion, and that Ven is the only other surviving Keyblader from the first era. Despite the fact that we don't see him in Key and Unchained Key, it could be written off that what Ven went through was what your character went through. And that the fact of the matter is you're playing Ven, going through his life. But I guess that wouldn't make sense, because then that secret ending, it wouldn't make sense for Ven. Unless Ven got out of the dream world? But no, he would be in Sora at that time. I'm sorry. I'm rambling now. But that's all we know about Key and Unchained Key. Until back cover comes out tomorrow, that's all we know. We know from Master Xehanort that the Keyblade was made during the first Keyblade War. Sorry, the Keyblade was made during the first Keyblade War. And then light Keybladers fought dark Keybladers. But we didn't see it in person. Maybe back cover will sort of show who got the Keyblade, as well as showing like the war in more detail, opposed to just your character fighting the 5-4 But I've been rambling for a little while now, so I'll just cut it off here. This has been the Belmont King. We have seen the whole story from release date chronological order. And so now, when 2.8 finally comes out tomorrow, we will get what Nomura thinks we need to know before going into Kingdom Hearts 3, which is back cover, point to a fragmentary passage, as well as Dream Drop Distance, the re-release. I don't think there's anything new in the Dream Drop Distance re-release, but point 2 and back cover are going to be new stuff, and they're going to be giving us new information, probably more about leading into Kingdom Hearts 3. When that released, I don't know. But I'm the Belmont King, signing off. Have a nice day, my friends.